Picture this. You're walking along a beach, sun's out, sand between your toes, a perfect summer day. But then you stumble upon something horrifying. That's what happened in Provincetown back in '74.
Provincetown, Massachusetts. It was a gruesome discovery that shook the town and became one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in true crime history.
That's right. We're diving into the case of the Lady of the Dunes. Who was she? And what happened to her out there on those dunes?
Well, we've got decades of theories, investigations, and even a few whispers that have become local legend. We'll try and unravel it all right here.
Where do we even start with a case this cold?
Best place is always the beginning. July 26, 1974. A young girl just out walking her dog makes a chilling discovery.
A body, right.
Yeah, but not just anybody. The scene was, well, unsettling is putting it mildly. This woman, she was lying on a beach towel. But her hands were practically cut off. And some teeth were missing, too.
Oh, that's awful. Right away, you'd think someone was trying to hide her identity.
Exactly. It was a clear sign that this was no accident. This was deliberate. Someone wanted to make sure she was never identified. Makes you wonder why.
It sends chills down your spine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you even begin to solve a case like that? Especially back in '74. Did they even have DNA testing back then?
DNA testing? No, not like we have today. Back then, they were working with fingerprints, blood types, dental records, the basics. And with the body being so decomposed, well, time was working against them.
Decomposition, yeah. Especially out in the elements like that. Must have been pretty tough to figure out how long she'd been out there.
You got it.
Yeah.
The heat, the sand, the exposure, it all speeds up decomposition. Makes it tricky to pinpoint the exact time of death. They estimated she'd been dead anywhere from 10 days to 3 weeks. That's a huge gap. Makes retracing her steps near impossible.
Wow, a huge gap is right. So they're dealing with a decomposed body, a potential homicide, and a wide time frame. Did they find anything at the scene that might point to who she was?
Not much, I'm afraid. Just a blue bandana and a pair of jeans. Pretty ordinary stuff. Not exactly a smoking gun.
You'd think those everyday items could offer some clue, though, right?
You'd hope so, right? But back then, tracing things like clothing brands or even the bandana's origin wasn't as easy as it is now. Databases weren't what they are today. Plus, who knows, maybe those things were even stolen. They just didn't have the resources or tech we do now.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Did they at least try to reconstruct what she might have looked like? I mean, did they ever release a sketch of her to the public?
Oh, they did. They even tried facial reconstruction. It was a pretty new technique at the time, using the skull to build a likeness of her face.
I've seen that on those forensic shows. It seems pretty high-tech.
It sounds fancy, but it's not always perfect, especially back then. Imagine trying to sculpt someone's face with only half the clay, You get an idea, an approximation, but it's not like a photograph.
Right, more like a starting point.
Yeah.
So all these years pass, and the case goes cold. Then, I remember hearing about a possible Hollywood connection. Something about the movie Jaws.
Yes, the Jaws theory. It's a good one, right? Jaws was being filmed on Martha's Vineyard around the same time this all happened, and some folks started thinking maybe she was an extra in the film.
Makes sense. Provincetown isn't that far from Martha's Vineyard, is it?
Nope, not far at all. So the theory goes, maybe she went to the mainland for some reason and, well, something terrible happened. The idea of this Hollywood production intersecting with a real-life mystery definitely caught the public's imagination.
You can't deny it's a captivating theory. Were there other theories about what might have happened to her?
Oh, tons. Some thought she might have been mixed up with organized crime. Provincetown has a bit of a colorful past, you see. Others thought maybe she was just passing through town, living a more transient lifestyle, making her harder to track down. There was even the possibility of a serial killer operating in the area.
Oh, wow. So, lots of theories, but nothing concrete. What about her identity? Did they figure out who she was?
For the longest time, it seemed like the Lady of the Dunes would remain a Jane Doe forever. But then, technology started to catch up.
That's often the case with these cold cases, isn't it? DNA testing has really revolutionized how we investigate crime.
It has. And in recent years, they've been using DNA analysis and something called forensic genealogy to try and crack this case wide open.
I've heard of that. It's like building a family tree using DNA, right?
Exactly. They take the DNA from an unidentified person and compare it to samples in those online genealogy databases, hoping to find a match, even a distant relative. And if they find a match, well, that could lead them right to her family and finally give her back her name.
Incredible. So there's hope after all these years. But even if they identify her, Will we ever know what really happened to her?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But even without all the answers, one thing's for sure. This case has left a mark on Provincetown.
How so?
This mystery, it's become a part of the town's fabric, you know? It's a reminder that even in the most idyllic places, darkness can lurk. It's even inspired books, documentaries, and even a few fictionalized accounts. People can't seem to get enough of it.
I get it. There's just something about unsolved mysteries that draws us in, isn't there? That need to know, to find answers.
It's the unknown, the unanswered questions that keep us hooked. We're always searching for explanations, for a sense of closure. And maybe, just maybe, by unraveling these mysteries, we learn a little something about ourselves, about the good and bad that exists in all of us.
It's a sobering thought. If they do manage to identify the Lady of the Dunes, could that help solve other cold cases from that time? Could her story be part of a larger pattern, a missing piece in a bigger puzzle?
Now that's a question worth pondering. It's possible, isn't it? Her story might be connected to something larger, a hidden thread that could unravel a whole network of unsolved crimes.
It's a chilling but fascinating thought. Makes you realize, even after all these years, the Lady of the Dunes might just hold the key to unlocking other mysteries, helping to bring closure to families who've been searching for answers for far too long. We'll be back next time with another captivating case. Until then, keep those thinking caps on.